Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters. I'm going to try to do these videos early in the morning today. Well, obviously not in places where people view my videos, but here it's actually not early. This is the first day I've slept in the entire time that I've been here, which is actually kind of weird. But I'm also trying to calibrate what I'm going to do today because I've actually tried to just sort of, keyword tried, okay? Doesn't mean it was very successful. I've tried to do nothing over the weekend. It has not really worked. I got my nails done yesterday, finally, because they were like really starting to annoy me. I am wondering if I'm going to stop getting my nails done so that I can have an extra $50 a month to pay for my mortgage. We'll see if that's going to happen or not. My family members are now calling me and asking me what's going on with the mortgage, and I'm like, as my grandmother used to say, I couldn't tell you if you held a gun to my head. What does that mean? Like, I literally couldn't tell you. There's nothing that you could do to make me be able to give you the information that I don't actually have. All I can say is the HOA board is super dysfunctional and they're not approving my application. The application is like 2 pages long, okay? It's not like a big application thing. And they just want to make sure like they do the same things the mortgage does, make sure that you have an income, make sure that you have money. It's pretty much all the application does. And then you have another entity also doing that. The other issue is that the mortgage company won't accept an unofficial bank statement, which those only come out every 5th of the month. And on April 5th, there was not enough money in one singular account. And it doesn't matter that I've showed the other accounts from which I moved the money. They need to see it all in the one account. Whatever, this is all very crazy. But that's what's going on. And my mom's like, well, we just want to get you settled. I'm like, no, I just want people to move my furniture for me or help me with that. She's like, well, no, that's what I mean. It's just an expression. I'm like, look, man, I was like, nobody can want this more than me. Like, believe me, like you literally don't even understand. Yeah. So hopefully that's all going to go good. I'm like, pretty anxious / excited about it. Those are pretty similar emotions, believe it or not. But like, I'm feeling hopeless that by the time I return in like a literal week that it's still not going to be done yet. And I'm not happy about this, but it is what it is. I don't know what else to do at that point. Then I need to start packing for my other business trip. And then hallelujah, that's literally my last trip for the foreseeable future. And I couldn't be more excited. All right. So today I actually wanted to answer the question about why I really want European citizenship. I can understand why this can be a really confusing concept because people seem to think the US is a really great place. This is a little bit hard for me to understand because of personal preferences and opinions, so I Googled it to get some objectivity. And I Googled, why do people think the US is the best country? And I liked this answer, which of course came from Reddit, the most reputable source. And it says, tons of natural resources, uncommonly stable government. At this point, that's kind of I'm not sure about that, but okay, this is probably from a while ago. Friendly business climate. I could see that being kind of true. Dominant culture and language. Yeah, true. Unrivaled military strength. Definitely true. Unrivaled higher education system. I'm going to have to also agree with that one. And free market economy. Now, whether you think the free market economy is a good thing or not, obviously is a very political question, which, despite the fact that I've made very many statements on the Russian side of my channel expressing my political neutrality or apoliticalness, if that's the word, people are still like, so are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? Are you a communist? Are you socialist? And the answer is really like none. I am a meist. Okay, what do I mean by that? Like, I don't think that I have views or values that subscribe to any of these, and like, really, I just do what I need to do, and I don't care. And then people are like, well, that's really ignorant. That's fine. You're entitled to have whatever opinion you want about me, and you can stop watching my channel at any time. It's totally up to you. All right, so going back to like, why is it important to me to have European citizenship? The US is such a great place. All right, so that's, again, like, you're thinking most people think the US is a great place. I don't think the US is a great place, and I have a lot of opinions as to why. And I'm trying to think about how deep I want to get into that rabbit hole to answer this question. But essentially, we're going to start off with the fact that you need to understand that as a US citizen, the US and Europe are friends, right? But they're not like BFFs. So what I mean is that I can't just go be unlimited in Europe whenever I feel like it. I have to have a residence permit, same way anybody else not from the EU would. I'm trying to think also probably like England and like Australia, probably people from those places also need a residence permit long term. It's hard to say because I actually don't know anybody from those places in Finland who's not a Finnish dual citizen. I'd have to fact check myself. I'm going to assume it's the same because they're excluded from the EU. All right, so that leaves you with having a residence permit or getting dual citizenship. Now, I would probably speculate that getting into the US is a lot more of a pain in the butt than getting into Europe. However, I'm also American, and the assumption in Europe is that Americans have enough money that they're not really going to cause a problem in Europe. Do Americans have more money than Europeans? Well, it kind of depends. Maybe from an objective standpoint, it could seem that way. However, subjectively, when you look at how much money people are spending just to fund their existence in the US, you might start to have a different view on that. So these are all things to consider. All right. So I, as an American, cannot be in Finland for more than 90 days or anywhere for more than 90 days unless I have a residence permit, which I do. Luckily, I've finally gotten a Type A residence permit, which counts for full-time, because prior to that, they had residence permits, which were Type B, which would only contribute to half-time, which is what I had for about 3 years, and that really sucked. So that basically means I only have cumulatively a year and a half of time in Finland. And now they keep upping that requirement, and I think it's something like 6 or 7 years that you need to spend consecutively in Finland before you can apply for citizenship. Don't quote me on that, and it keeps changing. However, the other thing that you need to know is once you go to apply for citizenship in Finland, you actually have to document how much of the time that you've been having a residence permit that you've spent physically in Finland, which for me, as we know, is not a lot. Why? Aside from the fact that I spend most of my time in the US, explicitly, you know, that's how things are in my life, I've also spent so much time, not only even outside the EU, but just like in other countries. Yes, I've spent a lot of time inside the EU, but that's still not in Finland, so it doesn't actually count as far as I know. This is what my Russian nail girl told me, and she knows a lot of information. And I'm pretty sure she has Finnish citizenship. I think she does, yeah. So I'm just going to take her word on it. Credible source here. No, really, she knows a lot of stuff, though. But where have I been during the time I had the Finnish residence permit? Australia, Armenia. Other places that were not on that. Kyrgyzstan. I did go to Kyrgyzstan in 2021. Back to the US, obviously. Malta is still EU. I'm trying to think of some obscure country that I've been to that's not EU. I didn't go to England. Okay, so I was mostly in the EU, traveling around. Is Croatia the EU? Oh, wait, some of these might not be. Oh, all of those ones, like Croatia, Serbia, Montenegro. Which of those is EU and not, like... No, actually, are all of those EU? See, this is like, Americans are dumb because they don't know what's in the EU. Like, literally, I don't. Turkey, I have been to Turkey multiple times during, that's definitely not in the EU, because I remember learning about that they were trying to get into the EU and it really wasn't working out for them. Okay, so I've been to a lot of places during the time that I've had my Finnish residence permit. I would have to check my passport, which I have with me. I could actually check that. And yeah, so that's going to be a big issue for me when I go to apply for Finnish citizenship, because right now that seems to be my only path. The other thing to understand is that Italy is currently redacting, is that the right word? Redoing their laws to be able to make it a lot harder for people to get Italian citizenship via this bloodline type of thing, the something sanguis or whatever it's called. I don't remember the name of it, but whatever, it's like a bloodline thing. And the biggest issue with this is, okay, well, there's a lot of issues with this as far as I know. Besides the fact that it's just annoying legal stuff, which is not my forte, if I'm being very honest with you. I already hate doing the paperwork to apply for my residence permit, so I'm very appreciative that I currently have a residence permit in Finland. That's good for 4 years. And after that, I really am going to have to figure out what I'm going to do. And maybe I'll get all into that in a moment later on. But why was Italian citizenship a good idea? All right, so one of the things we need to keep in mind about me is that, I have property in Finland, and I would like to maintain access to that property. If I lose the ability to be in Finland more than 90 days out of a year, that's not really very convenient for managing where I live there. So I would like that to not happen to me. Yeah, I did start thinking about, would I want to do more rental properties in Finland? I'm going to be honest with you, doing rental properties in Finland is like not very lucrative. Why? Because you have to pay 30% of your income to the government. And I mean, being a landlord, dude, I understand why people hate it now that I've kind of done it. Not worth it. Not worth it. Not worth it. No, don't do it. Okay. Yeah, you need a place to live. Beyond that, it's annoying. Mostly because, they always say people are not going to take as good of care of your property as you would yourself. So that's why I think, having a separate property would remove some of that emotional attachment from that. But anyway, I'm digressing a bit. All right. So this bloodline Italian thing, so my great grandfather's from Italy. However, I think there's a high chance he could have naturalized before the birth of my grandmother, which is what makes things complicated because he was in the U.S. military before that. So that's why I think that may have happened. However, I would have to check formal documentation, which requires spending money, and I'm cheap, so we have not gotten there yet. And the other issues are you need to collect documentation for every divorce and remarriage that has happened, and there's a lot of divorce in my family. So my grandmother was divorced once and married again. My mom has been divorced twice and not remarried. She's not married right now. Thank God, because that's one less document. And then that's kind of it. And then I think you also need death certificates, but the only person that's dead is my great grandfather. So that could work. But again, because he's naturalized, that kind of just like makes it, it ex-nays it. It just kind of makes it, obsolete. So other than that, the other issue is I don't know my other biological grandfather who's Italian, which is my mom's dad. Don't know him, never met him. But he would be the other path, and that just sounds like a lot of where the heck am I even getting this information from? Now, why would Italian citizenship be a good idea? Because it's still EU. Now, the thing is, you have to buy it, and now we get into the time versus money kind of dilemma, which always exists. My biggest obstacle to getting Finnish citizenship is that I don't speak Finnish. I did start thinking, because a lot of people are like, you should split this channel into English versus Russian, but if I want to start doing other language practice on this channel, I kind of rather keep it all in one place. And I did start thinking about how maybe I should just start writing out Finnish scripts and then trying to actually speak Finnish and then get feedback on what sounds really unnatural and what needs to be improved. Because yes, I can form sentences in Finnish, but my vocabulary is really not there. So that's kind of the issue. That makes sense since I hear Finnish speech a lot. That's what I'm trying to say. But I don't regurgitate it, right? So that's kind of an issue. I'm like a baby who didn't start talking yet, but it's been that way for 3 years. I have a speech problem in Finnish. That's true. Okay. So again, the Italian thing is theoretically, if I had a lot more money and I just wanted to buy the citizenship, it would work. However, the Finnish one, obviously, the purpose is for me to stay in Finland, so maybe that would make more sense. Obviously, I think, learning Finnish is something that needs to get done at some point. It's just, again, it's a later problem because the housing things are the priority. So we're working on that. And then the other thing is in some instances, you have to go stay in Italy for months and then have the police come and check that you actually live there. Also, Italy has really slow internet. I don't know if anybody else knows that, but that was really a big problem when I went there a couple times. I was not a fan of that. Yeah, but Finnish internet is kind of awesome. Yeah, so there's those things. Just I don't love Italy. I'm sorry, I don't. The food's good. It's really crowded. The infrastructure is not as good as in Finland, and people don't really like Americans there. So there's not really, people don't mind Americans in Finland. They're kind of indifferent. I mean, people are oh, they like Americans. I don't really know if they like Americans, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think they're kind of curious about them, but I wouldn't say they're oh, it's not the same reaction that I get for being American in the CIS countries like Kyrgyzstan and Armenia. Not the same. No. because some people think like, oh, Finland is better than the US. I'm one of those people. So again, this is part of it. I just think that Finland is a better place to live. Do I think Finland is a better country? I think Finland has its own problems. So I'm not going to say, oh, it's completely a better country. But for me and my preferences, it's definitely a better place to live. And that's a whole separate topic. Okay. All right, so I think going back to the logistics part of this, all right, so I'm going to tell a story. One time I went to Colorado, approximately a year ago, and I made friends with this girl who, the Russian teacher I had, who I was cat sitting for, because I was, just chilling in her house for like a week or so. This other girl was like working in finance, and she had a client who was really into Finland and ended up starting a business or buying a business in Finland to be able to get a residence permit. So this has been something else that I've thought of at the point at which my PhD residence permit runs out, because I really don't know how I feel about switching completely professionally to the Finnish environment. And that mostly just has to do with the fact that I have US assets that I have to support over here, and it just like, it's not going to work. Why? Because I need a place to live in the US, which, is my own problem and not my family's at this point, right? So we have that kind of situation. So, it's not like, yeah, because I kind of like lowered my expectations a lot, because if you lower your expectations, that's how you, become happier. And I'm like, I don't need big places to live. I just need places to live, and I don't care if they're shoe boxes. They just need to be a place that I can sleep. That's cool. Yeah, and I prefer to own them, because spending rent on places where you are not living all the time is kind of dumb. Mortgages accumulate equity, so there's that kind of situation. So, trying to explain the logic of all of this, and if you can find a place that's actually within budget, great for you. That's cool. Okay, so, right now it's like my issue is kind of being kept at bay for approximately 4 years, which is cool. After that, I really have to figure out what to do, because I'm not going to be eligible to apply for citizenship at that point. I have thought about trying to do a startup and trying to start a business there in Finland. That might be able to give me a different type of visa, but that's a lot more me figuring things out and legal stuff that, again, I don't like. Okay, so we have all those things. And yeah, it's in like, what's the whole point of, well, I get this question a lot. Well, if you like Finland so much, why are you still in the US? I will give the answer I give every time. I have a weird amount of unwavering loyalty towards my family that is very difficult for me to compromise, because I will literally feel guilty. It's like the Italian guilt thing, permanently leaving them and just being like, sorry, I don't have money to come back and see you on a flight. And aside from the fact that, like, I have accumulated a lot of things in the US, and yeah, I'm probably emotionally attached to all of my weird memoirs from when I was in different countries. So there's that. I also, the only thing I like about the US that I say all the time is that the US is the best place to earn money in the world. If you need money for whatever you need money for, it's nobody else's business. It's a good place to be. So there's that. What else is good? I've spent most of my life here. I know how the systems work. Like, I use the US for like what it's worth and what it provides me with. Beyond that, like, there are a lot of things I don't like about it, and that's why I do spend as much time as I can in Finland. All right, so moving on from that topic, now I want to talk more about, so I did a lot of the logistics talk right here. So basically it's like, I'm trying to maintain something in Finland, and what is the long-term goal? Okay, so now we're going to talk about that, and like what I actually like intrinsically like about Finland versus the US, because I think that's the best way to explain this. And I like having the option for in the future, if I want to go settle in Finland, I'm not getting like locked out of that. So that's kind of the thing. It's like a now or never thing. And I'm going to relate this to another story. Wow, I did not realize how hard it would be to answer this whole question. Okay, so when I was in working at NASA 2019, I thought that was like the end all be all. I thought I was going to go work at NASA and like have my whole career there, getting into NASA. I was like so hyper focused on it for a couple of years. It was like I was applying to NASA internships everywhere in the country, an autistic amount. I would check the website every day and send my application. Like that was like what my life was about. And when I found out I won the Boren scholarship to go study Russian in Kyrgyzstan, they told me that I would have to resign from NASA. And I had no idea how I would get back into NASA, but what conclusion I came to was doing this Boren scholarship is a now or never thing. I'm never going to have this opportunity again. However, if I try really hard, I'm sure I could get back into NASA. And then eventually, I went on to do the Fulbright. I found a job I liked way more than NASA that has given me far more opportunities than I would have had if I had stayed at NASA, and I'm honestly pretty happy with how things have turned out. Because I do have a lot of flexibility, and I've had some amazing experiences. So I'm very appreciative of that. Okay, so now the thing with Finland is I really fell in love with Finland. Finland is like a weird bipolar relationship for me because Finland has given me so much joy and so much sorrow all at the same time, which maybe just makes me feel more alive. I often relate the US to being plugged into the Matrix. That's what I'm trying to say, because the US is all about working, and when you're working a lot, it's cool because you accomplish things, and it's very admirable that you accomplish things. But there's an element of humanity that I really feel like is missing from my experience in the US. And a part of me speculates that that's why I've always had a lot of international friends in the US, who are not coming from white American backgrounds, because that's the culture that, although I'm integrated into and I grew up in, it's not where my soul is at, if that makes any sense. So again, I use it for what it's worth, and beyond that, I don't have a particular attachment to it. However, it is still a part of me, and it will always be a part of me, whether I like it or not, and that's kind of how life goes sometimes. Okay, so now, let me think. Relating this to the now or never thing, I had long known, and I've mentioned this before, my grandfather saying that the Nordic countries are the best countries in the world to live in. They have the highest standard of living. Yes, go take a flight to Finland or any of the other Nordic countries, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Iceland, and you will see that those buildings are in much better shape everywhere than they are in the US or another developed country like Australia or England or European countries that are very developed. So that, and then they're also notoriously difficult to immigrate to. So once I kind of got my shoe in the door with being able to eventually immigrate, whoa, look at that stuff behind me. Okay. Immigrate to Finland, I was like, this is an opportunity. It's now or never. Either I hold on to this opportunity or it's going to fall by the wayside. So to me, you have to be 100% sure that life in the US is what you want, what makes you happy long term, and that's it for you. And I have never my entire life been convinced of that. Since I got the opportunity to start traveling abroad independently at 21, I have never ceased taking advantage of that opportunity. That's who I am. It's what's inside of me. And as my one very, I don't know, the crunchy thing, as they call it, whatever, very into all the crystals and that kind of thing, she's like, this is a journey that your soul decided it needs to take. I'll take that. I think it makes sense. I'm like, cool. I vibe with that statement. All right, let's go. So she said that to me about going to Finland, because my first year in Finland was really rough. My second year in Finland, it was still rough, but a little bit less rough in certain respects. And then, it's still hard when I go there, but I have a different system now and I'm more experienced. So I've figured out ways to cope and strategize, let's say. But, every time I leave Finland, I'm like, it's never been long enough. It's how, every single time. It's how I felt leaving last time. Now, I'm keeping my foot in the door with this because I'm trying to keep my residence permit extended until we eventually cross the threshold into citizenship, and then I'm going to have a little bit more flexibility with where I'm spending my time, how I'm spending my time, how I'm managing things, because right now, I have limited resources, I have limited time, I have limited financial resources in a way, so all that, and have had a lot of instability that I've been trying to correct prior to, moving forward with this advancement. I do thrive off of chaos in some respects, so it's not like it's the hardest thing for me. It's something I'm sure most people couldn't do, wouldn't want to do, whatever word you put for negative plus doing this thing, that's what it is. So now I'm gonna relate this more to understanding the things that I really like about Finland and that are important to me that I want to keep in my life for the rest of my life, because I think that's really where this discussion has been heading the whole time, aside from just the logistics. Although one more thing I will add to the logistics is, trying to figure out how to get PhD funding. I have thought about, could I fully transition over to that? And I was like, if I had enough money to pay my bills in the US and then just do that full time. That would be dope, but I have no idea if that'd even be an option. So, it sucks because you work to maintain your lifestyle, and my lifestyle is adjusting away from travel and towards stable housing. And, people can have whatever opinions they want about that. Don't really care. It's not your life. Cool. All right. So now, what is it that I really like about Finland that I don't like about the US? So there are certain things I do like about the US, as I've said. Career, professional advancement, getting money. We need money. Okay, it's a necessary evil of life. So there's all that, and it's better to not be in debt. We all know that. Cool. So you need to plan. It's a thing in the Bible. It says that you must count the cost of the tower before you build one, or something like that. That's what it says. Yeah. Okay. So I also really like the sports aspect, and I was actually talking to this nail lady about this yesterday, because she's like, oh yeah, I like the sports because it's not even just the competition thing, it's actually good for you, right? It keeps your kids healthy, and it socializes them, and I think it's great. I love how invested into sports the US is. I think that's the one good thing we do. Even though it's competitive or whatever, I don't think competing for grades, I don't like that. I think that's terrible. We have this class rank thing that might sound weird to other countries. I'm not really sure, where it's you have a certain number in your graduating class. For us, it was 268. And then I graduated ranked 16th, which was higher than all of my other friends. So they naturally were jealous and angry at me, that true story. So it's awkward because on one hand, you want to be better, but then people get mad at you for being better. And of course, this is still something I struggle with in the US as I continue to do certain things with my life. Okay, so whatever. But yeah, so those are the good things. Now, well, I wouldn't say that's a good thing. I'd say that's a bad thing. And I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is that the pressure, and this is the other thing the nail lady said, she's there's a lot of pressure on the young people. Yes, in the US it is very competitive, aside from the sports thing. I guess because with sports, to me, it's less of a mental game and more of your body's just going to do what it's going to do. There's no amount of me trying to hype myself up that's going to make me swim or run a faster time. It was never like that. It was just whatever my body was going to do. It was muscle memory. Studying is a lot more different because it's, time, it's psyching yourself out, but then you also at some point have to accept you're kind of only as smart as you are. You can try to start doing a bunch of different things. You can exercise, that promotes neurogenesis, you can sleep more, you can study more, but beyond that, you kind of are as smart as you are. And then people are well, you can always try harder. You can try very hard, but at a point, how hard do you want to try versus sacrificing all of your being, having friends and feeling at peace and all of these other things. And to be honest, those are things I've sacrificed my entire life for success, and I don't like that. It leads to a lot of feelings of isolation, anxiety, loneliness, and you can't turn it off. It's once you learn how to be like that from a young age, it's you think that your entire identity maybe is based around being successful, and I think it's kind of toxic. I don't think it's really what life is about, or it's very inhumane. And that's kind of where I'm at now, and that's my default mode of being in the US. And so this is something I feel I struggle with a lot in the US, is working a lot. And I've quoted this before also. It's what do you do when you're trying to quit issues? This is my brother tells his clients with the substance stuff: people, places, and situations that make you want to use. Being in the US makes me want to be a workaholic. I have no other mode of being here. I don't know how. I don't even think I could move cities and get out of that. Although when I was at NASA, I did have one job. I used to exercise a lot, and I tried to be social, but that was also overwhelming for me. So I don't know, at some point it just wasn't fun anymore. In Finland, I feel a lot more socially connected to people. There's a lot more intellectual stimulation in terms of I'm meeting people from different cultures. I'm learning different ways of life. I'm hearing different languages all the time. Obviously, English is not the primary language in Finland. It's one of them, but really it's Finnish. So I'm hearing that there's a level of being challenged. Also, as a foreign person, you have to figure a lot of things out. And people are not competitive. It's more of a collectivist culture. People are encouraged to think about how their behavior impacts other people. It's not just me-centric. And to be a good citizen, I must prove that I work a lot. So, I get to a point where I'm what kind of environment do I want to raise my kids in? And it's more of a probably cross-cultural and going back and forth between these things. And for me, multilingualism is very important. You're not going to get that in the US. I just read that at the beginning, where it's a strong language and culture. Yes, we all speak English, and then people immigrate here, and then they think they should stop speaking their own native languages. Now, that doesn't fully happen all the time, but it hasn't, historically been a thing that's been a thing. Yes. So all that. But I just think that there are certain values around just like, I think I've always said this, like, it's easier to be a better person outside the US. I think in the US, it's like, it is very egocentric, and it's really hard to get away from being like that. Now, at the end of the day, all humans are like out for their own survival, but it feels like that, like, that feeling, that vibe is just intensified in the US. And I think, because I think about like being in San Diego does remind me of Australia a lot. And I was like, I like Australia. I would live in Australia. And why do I like Australia? Because Australia is like, how can I explain? No, okay, I'd explain it this way. Like, America's like Australians on steroids. Like, in terms of like, it's hard to live in Australia too. They have a big housing issue. They have a lot of like inflation, and it's becoming very difficult for the younger generation, as far as I understand. And the thing is, though, like, they're all pretty chill about it, so it's like a less competitive version of the US, and that's like why I like it, because it's just like the US but chill, so it's like familiar and comfortable in that sense. But yeah, I mean, it's just, with Finland, obviously I don't fully fit in or like have fully adapted. I'm not even there all the time because I'm not from there, but to me it is like, there are a lot of things I respect about the culture, about the people, about the society, that I like. It's just sort of like, from a values perspective, I don't know that I, like, at my core, agree with everything that America tries to instill in people. Like, I think that's kind of what it gets down to. It's almost like a moral dilemma, and that sounds very weird to explain it that way, but it's really the only way that I can. So, I don't think I would ever get to this point where I'm like, I hate the US, I'm going to denounce my US citizenship as soon as I get another one. No, definitely not. I understand that there are a lot of good things about the US. It's just that it's also okay to understand that just because something is good and cool and nice, it doesn't mean it's like my cup of tea, as we would say, right? Like, I do think there are a lot of things I really like about Finland. But again, my entire family's in the US. I don't have family in Finland. I've spent most of my life in the US. It's like, I can't just like cut this tie to the US. And I think to me, it's sort of like, I ask this question all the time. Why do people immigrate? People immigrate because they think there's a better life waiting for them wherever they're trying to immigrate to. So I think that with Finland, I do perceive it as all the things that have been historically missing from my life, like this deeper sense of connection with people, having time to have dinner parties and have people over and go to karaoke. Oh my gosh, karaoke is like the one thing I'm always thinking about. I'm like, I just want to go to karaoke, even though whenever I'm there, I never do that enough. Just like things that like on a day in, day out basis bring me joy, like my interactions with people, just like the essence of being in Finland makes me happy. And it's like, oh, happiest country in the world. But it's just like, I like it. I like interacting with like people in the stores. Like, I just feel like people are pleasant, people are relaxed, people are calm. It's not necessarily an entire vibe that I'm getting all the time while I'm in the US. Like, people are stressed out. Like, it's hard. Like, you have to grind. It's competitive. Like, people are trying really hard to like show things off. Like, it's very cutthroat. And, maybe people are like, well, that's not my experience. Maybe it's not, but it's been my experience, and that makes it legitimate as far as this opinion is being asserted. So, I don't know. I think that, to me, getting Finnish citizenship is kind of indicative of being able to move past all these things from the early years of my life that I never really liked, and that I felt like were being forced upon me by a culture that I didn't really like, fit into. And, there's the joke I've made. It's like, maybe Finland is just a country of autists, and that's why I like it. And then Finnish people are like, haha. And like, because they know it's kind of true, because people are kind of like awkward and antisocial and like to be alone, and like, honestly, and it's just like, it's a better culture fit for me. Like, that's really all it comes down to. And to me, having the option for the rest of my life to be able to spend more time at some point when, all the time, money, resource things are cleared up a little bit more in my life, like that means more to me than I could ever even be able to explain. So that's what it comes down to get to any like amazing goal. You usually have to sacrifice a lot. Like, I feel very blessed with, being able to get my Finnish apartment in the time frame that I did. It was like more than I ever could have imagined, like how much it worked, and just like it didn't even make sense. So I don't know. I kind of, the thing I always said was that like, in terms of spirituality sort of thing, I was like, I think that like it sounds so crazy person, but it's like, I'm like, I believe that God wants me to be in Finland because it's easier to not be materialistic and, you know, focused on money in Finland. It's not easy to be that way in the US. It's really not. People like money. It's why people come to the US, right? Like career opportunities, like I keep saying. So it's cool to have a higher standard of living, but at the end of the day, it's not really what makes you happy. And secretly, we all know that, but secretly, we also all strive for that. And it's kind of this paradox of being a human. All right, well, now I need to go continue my day and do these other things, and this really got very personal and philosophical, but yeah, it's a goal, like, and it will be a goal until I accomplish it, and like all my goals in life, I'm sure I will accomplish it, because I do that with everything. It's kind of scary. Sometimes I scare myself with that, because I'm like, how the heck do I even do all these things? It's like an out-of-body experience. Yeah, all right. So that's it. Feel free to ask more questions, but that was like a really hard question to answer, and I hope I actually did it. All right, until next time, bye.